guys, so it is, oh gracious, what is it? It's Tuesday, and if you have survived the crazy planetary alignment struggle, eclipse, doorway, energy stuff, then congratulations, because that was seriously a tough one. And so the newest topic for our little awesome spiritual discussion group has been struggle. And I was listening to some of our morning talk radios, and they were talking about like completely different things, but it completely interrelated to the idea of struggle for me. They were talking about The Bachelor, and I was like, I do not watch those shows at all. I don't watch reality TV, honestly. But I understand the idea. I understand the attraction, because sometimes, we don't want drama in our life, but we want like that little taste of being included in the drama without actually having to deal with the craziness that comes with drama. So I get the attraction. I am not into that, and that's fine. But the idea of watching people struggle, and that's what we were talking about, is we like to watch people struggle. Why? We like to hear about struggles. We like to hear the stories of struggles, because, for a few different reasons that we had kind of pared down. One is that when we see people struggle and they win, we like to be a part of that, essentially. We like supporting people through struggles, knowing that they're going to get through to the other side and be better because of it. We like, cheerleading. We like watching people get through the struggle, because if that struggle kind of mirrors what we're going through, it kind of gives us a guideline to get through whatever we're going through. And then, of course, when people are struggling through the worst of the worst of the worst and make it through, it gives us the notion that if they got through that, then we can certainly get through whatever the heck we're going through. So the idea of our attraction to struggle, and one of the girls was kind of relating it to this idea of our fear of success. And I was struggling last week because I was just feeling like crap, and I was tired, and Audrey was sick, and we were waiting to see who else came down with it. And I was like, this is a struggle. It's one thing to struggle with the gym, when you're frustrated with yourself because you can't do that last set, or you can't lift what you thought you could lift, or you can't do what you thought you could do, and you're just having a rough day in the gym. That's a interpersonal kind of struggle. But sales, man, sales is a tough field to be in. It is, for a lot of reasons. Most sales fields have cycles, pool sales. When we talk about roof sales, those definitely have seasonal cycles. And I was explaining that I was struggling because I haven't been where I want to be in my job. Not only does that make me more broke because I don't have the money, but it makes me feel like a failure in other ways, and it kind of bleeds over, even though it shouldn't. But our pieces of our life tend to affect other pieces of our life. So because I was feeling frustrated and kind of deflated when it came to my job, that kind of carried over into just a lot of stuff. And I think it came to a head last week when I just wasn't feeling good. And it could have been a lot of things. It could have been the planetary jujube. It could have been, I was really fighting off this cold for like a week and a half, and it finally took a few of us down, but not me, thank goodness. Knock on wood, I don't get sick. But the idea of that struggle, how we don't actually want to go through the struggle. We have a fear of struggling ourselves. We would love to help others through their struggles. That's a very spiritual calling. I consider it a cheerleading kind of thing. I love cheerleading. I love helping people and suggesting others. But the lesson that I got was when I was struggling myself, I very much kept it to myself. Regardless of even though I was feeling like crap, I could have reached out and asked for emotional support, just because, for a pep talk. My boss is really great at this. He would have told me, just go to friggin' work, and doing that now. But I felt I didn't reach out for help. which is one thing I always tell people: ask for help, ask for help, ask for help. And I didn't do it. So I get it. I totally get it. But going through my own struggle sucked. And so I understand why when people are going through their own struggles, they don't share it. And I think it might be because we have that fear of being judged. I don't have a difficult job in that I'm not saving people in an ER for 12 hours a day for, 3 or 4 days a week that the doctors work. I'm not working 16-hour shifts in the freezing cold doing road work. I'm not up at 3:30 in the morning doing shift work for mechanical stuff. My job isn't difficult in those ways. My job is difficult in other ways. And the way that people relate to that struggle might not be as kind as they would to the ER doctor, because my struggle is trying to explain to people that they need protection. When I think it's obvious. For me, I have 2 kids, so I have life insurance in case something happens to me. And the other thing that I think is so important is that when you get it young, it has the ability to cover you, for me especially, since cancer seems to kind of maybe sort of run in my family, and it's a fear that I have, that I carry, seeing my family struggle with the illness of cancer. It has protection for that. So my struggle doesn't relate to a lot of people because they perceive the idea of what I'm selling is, when I die, it helps bury me, which we have that too, But the truth is, I'm selling protection for entire families. I'm selling protection for their lives. I'm selling protection for what if, and not even what if, but when. And we have these cashback policies now, and they're really not that much more expensive, but people are I can't afford that. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do it less and you'll still get all your cash back. And then they're like, what's the catch? And I'm like, well, you can't die. And literally that's the running joke is, if I can't make people understand these small little things, what is my struggle? My frustration of not being able to help the people that need it and want it. For example, we have an 87-year-old lady, Doris, that always fills out our forms and always requests the help on different ad sites. And I call her every daggone time and I'm like, Doris, you're 87, you can't get coverage. I'm sorry, you're 87. Coverage ends at 85. It does. And she's like, well, how am I going to make sure that my family has enough money to bury me when I go? And I told her, I'm like, you're just gonna have to set aside savings. That's all that you can do right now if you haven't done it already. There are people that are really, really sick that are young enough to get the cash back, but they might have had recent heart problems. They might have had cancer and been recovered. And, I can't get them those cash backs, even though otherwise, other than the major health issues, they would qualify for it. I have people that, I don't want to say lie. I have people that fib to me about the medications they're on, thinking that, we're not going to find out somehow. They check the records. Of course they're going to find out. And then, I get in trouble because they're like, why would you put this application through? They're on a number of pain medications. And I'm like, they clearly didn't tell me. So I get in trouble for that stuff. So there's a tremendous amount of frustration that's involved in my job. But, people probably don't relate to my struggle because it isn't something as dramatic and flamboyant and emotion inducing. Although for me, having people call me and say, hey, my husband died. I need to get the cash for this insurance policy. That's an extremely, extremely emotional call. Having people tell me that their spouse is in the hospital for one of the things that the policy covers, the cancer, the heart attack, whatever, and they need the advance on the cash. That's extremely, extremely emotional. So, the idea of struggle varies from person to person and day to day. Some people with anxiety, some people with depression just struggle to get out of bed. And a lot of people can't empathize with that, can't connect with that, can't understand that could be such a tremendous struggle and compare it to the idea of war, because they are really fighting against depression and whatever other illnesses, the invisible illnesses that they have. And so the idea and the concept of struggle as defined as acceptable by our culture is really flamboyant and dramatic. And I think it's because of all these daggone TV shows. If it's not cool enough to be on a TV show, well, then it doesn't count. It's not really a struggle. You're not really struggling to get out of bed. You're not really struggling to deal with your pain level. You're not really struggling to sell insurance, But, for me, for these people going through these things that you maybe can't relate to, it doesn't mean it's any less of a struggle for them. And I think that's where it kind of connects for me. I always joked when we had the farm that we should totally have our own reality show, because farm life is insane. Farm life is a constant struggle, constant. If it's not one thing, it's everything. Animals getting sick, things breaking, because that's what happens at farms. And plus, we really need to bolster the idea of small farms in America, but not nearly interesting enough to the American public. So when you give your attention to these shows and these ideas, think about your own concept of struggle and your own life and what you might be going through, because it's definitely an interesting discussion topic for the idea of spirituality. When we struggle to put aside even our wants and needs, because we want to be awesome high spiritual beings, but we still have to poop. Like literally, something as basic as poop really drags us down to the element of being human, because clearly in spirit we don't have to worry about eating and drinking and bowel movements and that sort of thing. So something as simple as our body's need for more energy, and then of course getting rid of what our body has already used, certainly brings us immediately back down to the idea that we're human. And even though we're striving for, we're working towards consistently and constantly and doing the best that we can, we're still human. We're still experiencing this in this time right now, and there's nothing we can do about it. So if you have any ideas about your struggle, or you want to discuss the concepts, reach out to me. We've been kind of talking about starting a spiritual group, but Facebook group for the spiritual group, but I don't know how that would work, and I don't have the time to dedicate it. So if you would like to help us out with that, that would be awesome. Message me and let me know. If you have any feedback, any thoughts on struggle, or perhaps your story of struggle you'd like to share, let me know. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good week. Bye.